going on, everyone? So yesterday I made a video diving into Clint Capella and maybe potentially using him as kind of the first domino, the first thing to fall to kind of get the ball rolling here a little bit, right? Clint Capella isn't my favorite option. I don't have him listed as like, oh, you got to go get Clint Capella, but I do think given his price, given what it would cost to get him, and if Atlanta is willing to kind of help you shed some roster spots as well as salary, taking on Clint Capella I don't think would be the worst. Also, Clint Capella would be a $22, almost $23 million expiring salary that you could either A, look to flip at the trade deadline, or B, you could even just let it fall off the books, clear up some salary. LeBron could opt out. Like, you have flexibility next offseason. Or if it works out and Clint Capella is great, then you can re-sign him for, like say 10, 12 million a year, something like that. Something more reasonable to where it's like, okay, this makes a little more sense. Then it's a win-win across the board. Atlanta, they get some assets, they get some young players, right? Could be a win-win for everybody. Now, obviously, I would prefer a Walker Kessler. I would prefer, a Wendell Carter Jr. over that. But what is the cost for those guys? And doesn't solve your shedding salary and freeing up roster spots while also being able to stay under that second apron, because Lakers want to bring in guys like a Gary Trent Jr., want to bring guys in like a Spencer Dinwiddie and bring him in as another option for the Lakers, kind of upgrade this roster. So problem is Atlanta, they're under the apron, but they're not like super far under the apron. So obviously there has to be in some incentive. Also, like, what are you going to give up to shed? To me, I think a 3-team trade, and I kind of touched on this briefly towards the end of that video, but I want to kind of go more in depth and just explore and explain. Again, just a fun exploration, not something that is like, oh, but I do think it's very realistic, where you can bring in a team like the Brooklyn Nets, right? Brooklyn, they're looking to get off of Cam Johnson. They're looking to kind of maybe even take on some salary, take on some contracts for some assets. They're in full like, hey, we're rebuilding, we're retooling mode, right? So if we can kind of get in some deals, supposedly they're interested in D'Angelo Russell. That's still a possibility. Maybe you could work something out in that part. So to me, I look at it as like, can you use these various teams to kind of solve all of your needs and kind of kill multiple birds with one stone, right? Can you work out a trade to where you're taking back, say, a Clint Capella to and shedding some salary in that regard and bringing in, say, a Cam Johnson, right? Now you got a Cam Johnson. Now you got a Clint Capella. Now you've cleared a bunch of roster spots. Now you've cleared a bunch of salary, and not a bunch in the sense of like, oh, we cleared 20 million, but can you clear enough to where you can stay under the cap? You still have to fill out a roster. Remember, if you use your taxpayer mid-level, you still have to be able to fill out at least, 14 players, because otherwise you get penalized. So you need to kind of shape it and sculpt it into a way to where you can still fill in the roster spots, but at least your top 8 to 10 are heavy. The beauty is like even vet minimums, they range based on years in the league. So you can always, if you need to fill out a roster and say it's cutting it close to that cap, you can always just bring in, like a Blake Hinson on, convert his two-way into an actual roster spot. He's only going to make like $900,000 on his contract and you're good. So like, say you're like, oh, we only have $2 million left and we got to basically fill in 2 more roster spots. That's easy, right? Especially if you have your top 12 guys or whatever. At that point, you're just like, hey, Colin Caston, come on down. Blake Hinson, come on down. Them combined is only going to be like $2 million or whatever, $2.5 million, whatever it would work out to be, right? So I'm not so worried about the bottom of the totem pole as far as the list of players. What I look at is, can you get that like top 8 guys? Can you get that front end 8? You have your rookies, you have your young guys that you can develop and work on. So to me, you can essentially take, say D'Lo, the Nets want D'Lo. Okay, perfect, right? That's $18.7 million. You still need to clear another like 4 and some change, call it $5 million, right? If you can basically take like a D'Angelo Russell, boom, he goes to a team like Brooklyn, take like a Rui Hachimura, which a team like Atlanta, they might actually like that, because you got to remember, they still have Trey, right? So they, yes, are kind of heading in this like almost rebuild direction, but they want to kind of make it work with Trey, they might value a guy like a Rui. They might value a guy like a Gabe Vincent, somebody that can come in and kind of be this vet presence and also kind of help with the young guys, but also kind of give Trey Young guys to kind of confide in and lean on that have that experience. I also think Rui under Trey would actually be very good with his ability to catch and shoot, pick and pops, all kinds of stuff that you can do with Rui Hachimura. But if you can work something out where, again, say a D'Lo is going to a Brooklyn Nets, you got Rui going to a team like Atlanta, right? You're getting, say, Cam Johnson and Clint Capella back. Obviously, you need to give up more, right? But I'm just saying, like, those are the two guys. That's essential, the meat and potatoes of the trade. Right? Cam Johnson, Clint Capella to the Lakers, right? So now you're talking, you got to clear out roughly $50 million in cap space, again, to get over what you need to get over in order to free up your full taxpayer mid-level, free up all these other things. So now you have D'Lo and Rui going out. There's roughly $35 million. You could send out, a Gabe Vincent. Kind of which guy wants Gabe Vincent? Right? Again, a team like Atlanta, they might value a Gabe Vincent. They might look at it and go, man, he'd be great. Point of attack alongside Trey Young. He could be a guy on the backup. Obviously, picks and things like that are going to have to go out, right? So that is something of value. That is, you're going to have to kind of help. But you got to keep in mind, you're also helping Atlanta. Hey, we're getting you off of a Clint Capella type deal, free up time for your young guys. We're giving you a piece in Rui, right? They're not getting a first or 2 firsts for Clint Capella, but maybe you can work something out where you're sending a first for Cam Johnson. You're sending out, say, maybe 4 seconds, because got to remember, Atlanta's not only getting you Clint Capella, but they're also taking on salary. They're also, helping you clear off roster spots, free up your taxpayer mid-level, right? Then it's just kind of figuring out, okay, which domino goes where, right? Again, you got like roughly $35 million going out, right? Now you're talking, again, a Gabe Vincent. There's $45 million. At that point, you just need to clear off basically Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 vet minimum guys. You could send, say, a Christian Wood to a Nets team. You could send because now you got Clint Capella. Maybe you don't need Jackson Hayes, right? Now you can send a Jackson Hayes to a team like Atlanta, right? Hey, here's a young center for you. There you go, that you can either grow, develop, or at the end of the year, he falls off the books. It's a win-win for everybody. Now you get these guys back. Now you've cleared off several roster spots. Again, which team wants Jalen Hood-Schifino? Here you go. You can have him, right? Now you've cleared, at that point, roughly about like $8 million or so. So now you have enough, but you got to keep in mind, you have to fill out the roster, right? So you may end up having potentially even having to pull off like a minor like salary dump trade. But I do think between that, right? Because got to keep in mind, Lakers are only 45,000, something like that. Like 1,000, not million, 45,000 away from that second apron. They use their full mid-level exception, then they're hard capped, right? Or not full mid-level, taxpayer mid-level. My apologies. Taxpayer mid-level, then they'd be hard capped. Now, you also don't have to use that. You can work something out, but you aggregate in salaries, same thing, right? So you're hard capped, right? So to me, it's like, okay, if now you've cleared basically that $8 million, let's say you have, D'Lo, Rui, Gabe Vincent, right? You have, let's say, Jalen Hood-Schifino, you have Christian Wood, and you have Jackson Hayes going out. You got 6 guys going out, and you have 2 guys coming in. So you have basically 4 roster spots. Really, you only have to replace 3 because you keep 14, right? You're going to use your full taxpayer mid-level. Maybe you can get him a hair under. That would be nice. Take maybe a hair under. So now you're at a position to where, okay, cool. Now you have basically $3.5 million to work with. And at that point, you got to fill in 2 roster spots, as I mentioned. Hey, Blake Henson, come on down. If you had to, you bring in Traore, whatever, right? Between those 2 guys, their vet minimum is not anywhere close to that. You stay under the cap, you're in good shape. You get back Cam Johnson, you get back Clint Capella, you bring in a Gary Trent Jr., you can bring in a Spencer Dinwiddie still, and then bring in Spencer Dinwiddie, bring in Blake Hinson, and then that should be, if I'm off the top of my head, if my math it might be a little close, right? Boom, you're right there. All is good. You stay under the apron. You only have to be $1 under the apron. You just can't go beyond the cap. Be a penny over the or under the apron, right? So as long as you stay in that range, then you're in good shape, right? Now the Lakers got, let's say, Spencer Dinwiddie. They bring in Blake Hinson. You get, Clint Capella. You bring in Gary Trent Jr. and you bring in Cam Johnson. You got 6 guys going out. Most of them are vet minimums or a rookie. You're in good shape, right? Now you're in this position where it's like, okay, now the Lakers maybe be in a position to contend. Right? Now the Lakers are in a position where it's like, hang on a second, we might have something here. And you still have Clint Capella and his $22 million that you can use as a deal to load something. Lakers are shopping Jared Vanderbilt. If you want to at some point, if something comes along, say the trade deadline or something, take Jared Vanderbilt and Clint Capella. That's now $32 million, right? Like you could always add in Cam Reddish or something if you wanted to and just get to 35 million or whatever, 37 million, right? So the Lakers would still have flexibility, or you just let that money fall off the books, right? You let everything kind of fall off the books and you're good. And now you kind of retool again in the offseason, or bring in a guy or two, or maybe you can get enough to where you can use your full mid-level exception, right? Or maybe you're bringing back Clint Capella for a cheaper deal, right? I don't hate the idea. So essentially, again, just to kind of explain all in one dose, because I understand when I'm breaking it down, it's kind of like, oh, okay. So essentially, you'd send out D'Angelo Russell's $18.7 million, Rui Hachimura's $17 million, Gabe Vincent's $11 million, right? That right there gets you a little over $46 million right there. Again, you throw in like a Jalen Hood-Schifino, you throw in a Jackson Hayes, you throw in, say, a Cam Reddish, right? Jalen Hood-Schifino gets you over the money that you need for Cam Johnson and Clint Capella, right? And then basically you're just shedding the 2 vet minimum guys to get you and free up an extra $4 or $5 million. So now the Lakers would be able to free up enough to clear off for that. Like I said, vet minimums are based on years and experience, right? You see a guy, his vet minimum's like $3 million, but it's because he's had, 4+ years in the league. A rookie coming in on a minimum is only like $900,000, something like that. So if you had to, like I said, you bring in 2 rookies, as long as you have your top 8, right? Top 8 to 10, you're fine, right? At that point, again, you'd have Clint Capella. Like, let's say you can't even bring in Gabe Vincent or not Gabe Vincent, Gary Trent Jr., right? Let's say you just bring in Spencer Dinwiddie, right? You still have, like I mentioned, you still have Cam Johnson, still have Clint Capella, you still have LeBron James, still have Anthony Davis, you still have Austin Reeves, you still have Dalton Knecht, Max Christie, Jared Vanderbilt, you have Spencer Dinwiddie, right? Like, you're fine. Right, you got your main 8 guys. You still have flexibility to make other moves. You bring in a couple rookies just to make sure you don't get penalized on the floor. You're in good shape, right? Like the Lakers would be fine in that regard. Again, it's just about can you get your top 8 to 10 guys, right? You're good. You also need to keep an account, that's why I say 8 to 10, because you need to keep an account. Like, what if Anthony Davis misses some extended time? Cool. Okay, we got a Clint Capella, right? What if LeBron missed some extended time? Okay, well, you got moves here, right? Like, give yourself some flexibility. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you like the idea of, hey, maybe working it out as a 3-team deal, bring the Nets on, send out D'Lo, kind of get various pieces going, X, Y, and Z place. Again, it always could come down, especially with 3-team trades. One team might go, I want, maybe the Nets are like, I'd rather have Rui than D'Lo, right? Because we're going a different direction. We're just going to ride it with Schroeder this year or whatever, right? And they might go, okay, cool, D'Lo's an expiring contract. Well, we'd rather take D'Lo, right? Things can switch and move around, but essentially you're flipping D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, and Rui Hachimura to get those guys, right? And then you're bringing in, because like I said, you have Clint Capella making $22 million, Cam Johnson making about $22 million. Combined, they're about $45 million, right? With those 3 guys, D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, and Rui Hachimura, that clears like $1 million over, I think it's a little more than $1 million over than those 2 salaries. And then you're just kind of adding in the Jalen Hood-Schifino, Christian Wood, because he's making like $3 million, right? Whichever one is higher between Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes, right? Those are the little moves that you're making, freeing up the space, bringing in some guys, and you're off to the races. But anyway, again, how you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.